It is time for Around the 412 with Smitty and Tyler.
Welcome back to another episode of Around the 412. I'm Tyler. With me, as always, is my co-host Smitty. Follow us on all of our social medias at Around the 412. Also, go check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a like on the video. Hit that notification bell so you get notifications anytime we post a podcast. And while you're there or over on the listening platforms, go follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts as well. Check out the description of the show. We've got year 7 of Rocking Around the 412. It's our Christmas fundraiser, whether for the past 6 years, ourselves, along with everybody that's been able to donate, has partnered with the East Rochester Salvation Army to adopt kids off their angel tree, as well as provide children Christmas in the local 724-412 area codes for some individual families. Raised over $32,000 the first 6 years. This year alone, we are around $1,400 now total. Want to continue to push that all the way until the middle of December. So the GoFundMe link to Rocking Around the 412 is going to be at the top of the description in every show from now until then. So if you're interested, please donate. The link is there. Also, if you could just share the message as well. You never know who could see it. We want to get as many eyeballs on it as we can. This is the Steelers podcast, and the Steelers find themselves at 3-0. Who would have known that going into the season, Steelers would be sitting pretty at 3-0, not just 3-0, still first place in the division. Everybody else is 1-2 or 0-3 in the division. They're sitting pretty good right now.
I think I'm not as surprised about the Steelers being 3-0 as I am with the Ravens being 1-2 and the Bengals being 0-3. That is far more surprising to me
than
where the Steelers themselves are. The fact that they have 2 games on the Ravens, 3 games on Cincinnati already after just 3 weeks is awesome. And again, kind of goes into the fact that, that you look at their schedule, they don't see any of these teams until the second half of the season. Gain as much ground now before you have those head-to-head matchups. So there's still a lot of meat on the bone here for what the season could be. We want to dive into this game. We also put out for questions. Actually got quite a bit of questions that we're going to get into as well, which we will do. Tyler, first things first, I want to take a step back for a second here to talk about this game because we don't do the prediction stuff because we do the Steelers Saturday sit down now. But your predictions on there, the score wasn't necessarily correct, but J.K. Dobbins under 75 rushing yards. What do you have, like 50 something, I think, in this game? And the other one was Justin Fields' rushing touchdown, which was the first touchdown for the Steelers on the day. So both of those hit, just not your score prediction. And none of mine happened, but Elandon Roberts knocked Justin Herbig out of the game on a sack that he had. And I thought the ball was going to come out. So I feel like that's like at least 0.25 points worth right there.
A little bit of credit.
No, but seriously, like this game, man, like what were your first takeaways from it? I know for me, I was a little bit frustrated with defensive. Like I thought life was pretty easy. Justin Herbig was able to get a little too comfortable for my liking early in the game. I thought the Chargers had a pretty good game plan for protecting him, but then in the second half, the defense just started to tee off. Obviously knocked him out of the game, and then nothing changed when they brought in Taylor Heineke. The pressures kept ramping up. I don't think that they were necessarily taking him as serious. So they were challenging him. They were keeping one-on-ones on the outside. We're sending more pressure his way, and they were really just able to take control of that game. Negative 5 yards of offense for the Chargers in the second half of this football game. So what were your first takeaways?
I was like you, kind of frustrated with how the Steelers were handling the Chargers offense in the first quarter or so. I thought that they would be able to get to Justin Moore, knowing that he was dealing with the ankle injury, knowing that he wouldn't be able to move around a lot. I thought they would have taken more advantage early on to be able to get to him early. But credit to the Chargers, they were able to find a way to make it work early on in this game. They were able to get that touchdown with Quentin Johnston, and they weren't really asking Herbert to do a whole lot. And to be fair, they weren't really asking J.K. Dobbins to do a whole lot either. I mean, obviously they wanted him to get going, but the early success that they had did not come from their running game. It just kind of came from dinking and dunking down the field and getting the ball out quick, not giving the Steelers time to be able to get into their backfield and cause havoc. Credit to them for doing that. But as the game went along, like you'd mentioned, Steelers figured it out defensively and knocked Justin Herbig out of the game. I mean, it's unfortunate when anybody has to come out of the game for an injury. But we talked about on Steelers Saturday sit down that he probably shouldn't have even been playing in that game. Like if it was us, we may not have done it because we talked about how much the Chargers game was, the game plan for them was not going to change, whether it was Taylor Heineke or Justin Herbert at 40% with that high ankle sprain. Realistically, your game plan wouldn't change. Offensively, the pass game, I don't think would have been that different with the dinking and dunking early on. And trying to get J.K. Dobbins and co running the football, that was always going to be the same. It didn't work out for them. And still, yes, I was right. Held under, it was actually 44 rushing yards by J.K. Dobbins. A significant drop off from his first two games, 135 and 134 yards in those respective games. So credit to the Steelers defense for that. But yeah, I thought that they did a good job of figuring out how to get to the quarterback later in the game, and they were able to adapt to what was being given to them. And then the Steelers offense, they just continue to get better game in and game out. They had their best game of the season. Justin Fields had his best game of the season so far. And it's funny because I was thinking about this while I was watching the game. I was thinking about it after the game and over the last couple of days that we've gotten to relish on it. How last week I was talking about how whenever Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, whenever they're both 100% healthy, you got to go back to Russell Wilson. And I'm not saying that you have to stick with Justin Fields 100% right now. Obviously, it looks like this upcoming game with the Colts, he's still going to be listed as a starter. I mean, that's just the wording that Tomlin's going to use. He's going to start the football game. But now I'm in the camp of like, I'm just completely flip-flop from what I said a week ago. Like, I don't know how, if the Steelers continue to win and they continue to progress offensively, and I'm not saying that they're world beaters offensively. Obviously, I would love to score more than 20 points. But being able to see the success that they had on Sunday, and you started to see more of an identity of what they could be as an offense, and you saw a lot of good things. I just started to think to myself, maybe what I said is just kind of irrelevant now. If you continue to see the progress, how could you go away from a quarterback that has started you to at least a 3-0 start, moving into next week if they're 4-0, and it's how do you go away from that guy if he's continuing to get better and your team is not losing?
Yeah, like people are going to look at this game and say they scored 20 points. Also, should have been 27. I mean, they kneeled it down at the 1 yard line. Like that's Najee got tackled at the 1 and they decided to kneel it out. But yeah, I mean, I'm in full agreement there. I want to spend more time there, so we'll come back to that because I want to talk about the defense first in this one, because they're going to be without Alex Highsmith for a few weeks. Certainly, he had a groin injury in training camp, missed a month. Now he's re-aggravating it. I know that they're saying no surgery, which is good. They don't think it's going to be long-term. But I'll be honest, like people are throwing out like maybe he misses like 2 weeks. I feel like that's super optimistic just because he already had missed a month. And now I feel like they're going to be super cautious with it. And you got this guy in the bank, Nick Herbig. What more can you say about this guy? I mean, I feel like we kind of already knew what he was as a pass rusher. And obviously it's great to see him continue to flourish in that way. But Baldy's breakdowns, best in the business right there. I love it. I love the enthusiasm that he brings to it too. And he absolutely loves him some Nick Herbig. He really highlighted what he was doing in the run game as well. I think Nick being a smaller guy off the edge, he's going to get tested in those ways. And how's he going to hold up over a full football game? That's still TBD. But he had some moments against the run as well on Sunday that I was like, okay, this is what's going to be able to separate him from being a guy that's just like, you know, a reserve pass rush specialist to being a guy that can play out there for, you know, 70% of a team's snaps like he's now going to have to in the absence of Alex Highsmith. So if he's able to do that for the duration of a football game, going to answer a lot of questions, and he's even better than what I think that we are anticipating getting in a player. We know what he can do as a pass rusher. He's provided, you know, a surplus on what his draft position was already because of that. But if he's able to take the next step and also be really good against the run, or at least serviceable against the run, I mean, we got even more of a player than we already thought we had.
Yeah, I mean, you got to love him, right? From his first game of the preseason in 2023, he made an impact. He was noticeable, and that's continued.
If it was just preseason, like if they had a preseason Hall of Fame,
yeah, absolutely, first ballot, and every single time he's taken the field for the Steelers, whether it is preseason or the limited reps he's gotten in these regular season games, and now going to be more of an expanded role moving forward, he has made an impact, and he has not looked out of place being on that edge. I know like he hasn't had as many rushing snaps as he's going to get here at least this week and moving forward, but from what you've seen from him, everybody thought coming out of the draft, this is just going to be another off-ball linebacker that the Steelers are going to transition him to. That's not the case. He proved that he can be an edge rusher. He's going to have to prove it even more now, so that he's going to be edge 2 for the Steelers for the foreseeable future. But I believe in him 100%. I think that everything you've seen from him has led to good things. He's given a lot of confidence in the Steelers and the edge rushers, because if this would have happened and they didn't have a guy like Nick Herbig and they were dealing with, let's say, Jeremiah Moon is healthy, and you're saying, like, well, probably DeMarvin Leal is going to be your edge rusher 3, realistically, especially for this upcoming Sunday, while you don't have Jeremiah Moon back yet from injury. I definitely think that we would be questioning the depth of the edge rusher position more. And obviously, you still don't want more guys to go down, but having somebody that can step in like Nick Herbig can, that leaves a lot of confidence in that position, that I don't think there's going to be a ton, if any, of a drop-off from Alex Highsmith to Nick Herbig. And if anything, Nick Herbig is someone that I feel like a lot of these offenses are not going to know really what to plan for, because there's not a ton of tape on him, and the tape on him is just very good. And I think that you're going to see a lot of success from him. And I don't think that you're going to miss a beat with the defense with him in there. I think he's born to make plays. I think he's good and stout in the run game, more than he should be at his size. And it's going to be curious to see how that goes. Like you mentioned, getting 75% of the snaps for a defense. What is that going to be like over the course of a game and over several games, if that's the case? But I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see that another one of those 2023 draft class prospects are going to be getting a lot of playing time. That draft class just continues to get better because of how much you can rely on these guys to come in and fill in those shoes.
Yeah, I mean, the return on investment's obviously been fantastic so far. Yeah, I really don't question the drop-off. I don't think there's going to be much of one from a pass rush standpoint. Again, it's going to be the test that they have in terms of him setting the edge in his run defense, because Alex is obviously very good at that at his size. So, TBD, I think DeMarvin Leal is going to have to step in and take some snaps there as well, and we'll see if they do anything else. They just added Marcus Haynes back to the practice squad. Don't know. I can't imagine he'll get a helmet and be added to the 53. So I think it's going to have to be DeMarvin Leal taking some work away from Herbig and TJ to give them some rest on Sunday. Another guy that I want to highlight is James Pierre. And it wasn't necessarily from a defensive standpoint. He only played 2 snaps there. Corey Trice got hurt. And now Corey Trice is on IR, so he's going to miss at least 4 games, which obviously elevates the role that James Pierre is going to have in a backup cornerback capacity. Probably the next man up behind Joey Porter Jr. and Dante Jackson. So, but I wanted to talk about what he did on special teams. I mean, this dude was signed, and he was a very good gunner for the Steelers before. So bring him back in, the familiarity that he had there was obviously awesome. But the special teams was as good as it's been this season. I know it's only the 3rd game, but I thought it took a significant leap in game 3. Corliss Waitman was awesome. But it seemed like James Pierre was down there to force a fair catch on damn near every punt. Like I thought he was awesome on Sunday, and I think that he's going to have to continue to be. Obviously, the special teams has just been decimated with injuries. I don't think it's been talked about enough. But how fortunate to just be able to find a guy like James Pierre off the street that Washington let go, and just bring him right back into the fold with the familiarity that he has.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason that he stuck around in Pittsburgh while he was not playing on those defensive snaps, because a couple of years ago, a lot of us were pretty high on James Pierre, thinking that was going to be one of the new quarterbacks.
Yeah, everyone was like, you can let Steven Nelson walk. And
yeah, absolutely. And then what he just turned out to be was a special team specialist. And I think that there are definitely roles for guys like that in this league. I mean, you see with Miles Killebrew what he can do on special teams. There's a reason he's on the Steelers, and he's never going to play defensive snaps. But absolutely, he is an all-pro whenever it comes to being a special teams player. If you can get the same thing out of James Pierre, there's valuable snaps there. And you mentioned the Corey Trice injury. That is unfortunate, and I got to say, outside of what it means to the Steelers, I just feel bad for Corey Trice. Finally gets back to football, finally is healthy, and making significant strides in his game, but also making significant impacts in the games for the Steelers. He's been doing a lot of good things. To see him hurt like that, and a hamstring too, that's one of those things that it could be a few weeks. Like he's placed on IR, so it's at least going to be several weeks. Probably won't see him until like what? Does that line up with the bye week?
I was gonna say I would look at week 10 against Washington, because you got you obviously have 5 more games before the bye. Bye's week 9, but like you're looking at least 4 weeks anyway. Would you bring him back for potentially a game against the Giants week 8, or just say what's
you could get an extra 2 weeks if you have the bye week?
Yeah.
And yeah. I think that would be smart. It's just unfortunate for him because he's getting this momentum as a player. I just feel bad for him knowing what he went through last year, being out for the season, having this. And it's something that, like I said, hamstring is a weird injury. You could be out for a few weeks of the hamstring, or it could just be something that lingers the entire season. And I knock on wood, I hope that does not happen for him. So just on a personal level, feel terrible for Corey Trice that's going to be the situation that he's in. But as far as having James Pierre goes, I mean, special teams, 100%. It was good on Sunday, and he was one of the reasons for that. Having a gunner that can make sure that they're getting down the field and causing teams to make fair catches instead of getting those returns, that's valuable to a team. And especially with the Steelers, you know how valuable they care about, and then Tomlin cares about those guys that are good on special teams. That's why a lot of the times when we talk about in the summer with position battles and the depth issue, is we always bring up, like, well, can this guy play special teams? That is a very big issue and key indicator whether a guy may make the 53-man roster or not. So James Pierre, lucky to have him, and lucky that he has experience in the Steelers defense as well, considering he might run into where they need him on the defensive side of the ball as well. And obviously I don't think that's a guy that you want out there a ton defensively, but knowing that he can in a pinch, I think that's something that is good. And then what the out value he adds with the special teams, I think that's great for the Steelers. It's a great signing, great bring in. Like you mentioned, off the street, he was doing nothing with football, and being able to have that as a possibility, that's great signing for the Steelers.
The last thing I want to bring up defensively, we just talked about Nick Herbig. Do we think there's a possibility that one of these shirts are in his future? What's going on, everybody? Smitty from Around the 412, and I just want to take a quick second to give a shout out to our folks at Game Changers. Their logo on the screen right now, right above my microphone. Over 2,000 different designs in their catalog. Luxury heavyweight material. I am wearing one of their shirts right now. Best vintage t-shirts in the game. Head over to gamechanger.la or pick6.la to pick up some shirts. And guess what? Use code AT412. Save yourself $10 on your order every single time. Again, gamechanger.la or pick6.la. Best vintage t-shirts in the game. Check them out. All I'm saying is Nick Herbig Game Changer shirt would absolutely slap. I also told him they need to get on a Chris Boswell one, so hopefully that's in the near future as well over there. But hey, you can go check out, they got Justin Fields designs on there, George Pickens, Minka, TJ, obviously. Any other current players? Joey Porter Jr. for sure. Oh, Queen, Muth. Yeah, there's a ton right now. Plus a bunch of other Troy, if you want to throw it back a little bit, Big Ben. So go check them out, gamechanger.la or pick6.la. Save $10 using code AT412. Let's talk about Justin Fields in this offense, because I thought that Justin Fields played one of the 3 to 5 best games that he's played in his NFL career on Sunday. And to do that with the pressure that is continuing to mount, I mean, Russell's not healthy right now, but he's going to be, and that's breathing down Justin's neck. And for him to go have a performance like that in the home opener in front of all those fans, I thought was very impressive. I thought that my concern going into this was that it was going to look a lot like week 1 and week 2, where very much the kid gloves are still on, there's shackles attached. It's a backup quarterback game plan to, hey, just don't lose it for us. I don't think that was the case. I mean, we still didn't see much of the QB run, but he was able to make plays with his arm. He was going through, I had somebody tweet at me because I made like a highlight video, a couple of his throws in the game. One was like 7-8 yard pass to Freiermuth. And people are like, why did you include this in this? I said, you know why I included it? He started to his left, worked his way to his third read in the progression, and then threw it. That's not something that we've seen Justin do in the past. Like, that is something that he has struggled with. I think that there's a leap there just based off that. I thought Sunday was a great showing for him in terms of playing the quarterback position. I thought he checked a lot of boxes to prove that he can be the quarterback for this team. I said before the season started that this is the guy that I would have rolled with based off kind of what I knew was happening. I thought that Russell was going to get this job back, and I'm not saying for sure that that's not the case now, but I feel good about my stance now that I think Justin Fields should be the starting quarterback for this team going forward. Will that be the case? I don't know, but it's what I would do. And I think Sunday was the first time that I can say that with conviction now, because I feel like they actually let him go out there and play ball.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement with you. That's what I was just alluding to a little bit earlier, where last week I was very much on the Justin hasn't shown me enough through to the 2 games to be able to say that he should start over Russell Wilson when he's healthy. Now, the team being where they're at and what he's progressed, I'm starting to flip the other way. I think that they are starting to see development from Justin Fields, that different development that he didn't even get in Chicago over 3 seasons. Like you mentioned, like being able to progress and go through reads. That's something that he hasn't really done before in the NFL. On Sunday, he completed 78% of his passes. I mean, that anytime you can get that from a quarterback.
Yeah, like 10% completion percentage above expected. Like he had a better game than he should have, basically, based off the offensive line play that he had, the tight windows that he had to throw into. He had a couple drops within there from his receivers, and he was down to 3 receivers. Van Jefferson only played 11 snaps in this game. He had some eye injury that was bothering him. So we'll talk about Calvin Austin here in a little bit, because I think that's somebody to talk about from this game as well. But Justin Fields had a much better game, in my opinion, than like the supporting cast should have given him.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people noticed that as well. I saw various videos on like TikTok of people breaking down some of the plays that Justin Fields had on Sunday, talking about how he was noticing and reading the defense more than he has in the past and capitalizing on that with his decision making with the ball. I think that it was definitely his best game I've seen him play as a Steeler for sure, and one of the best games he's had in the NFL. And Justin Fields right now to me is this team's quarterback. And I don't know, like I mentioned, if the team is continuing to win and if they continue to progress offensively and he progresses as a quarterback, which we've seen in 3 continuous games, I've seen no reason why that can't continue. And if that continues, I would love to hear an argument for benching him regardless, because I think that the reasoning for it is going away by the wayside because there's not enough of it.
I want to bring the Carolina situation into this. They just benched Bryce Young for Andy Dalton, and look at what Carolina did in the first game with Andy Dalton at quarterback. 300 plus yards passing, 3 passing touchdowns. Carolina beats the Raiders, who had just beaten the Ravens the previous week. The reason that I bring that up is a big conversation that week about Dave Canales and making that decision to bench Bryce was, you got to be able to sell the decision to your team. You got to be able to get in front of that group of men and say, this is why I'm making this decision for the football team. Are you going to be able to, as Mike Tomlin, and this is a hypothetical kind of including this 4th game now, because we were saying, assuming you go to 4-0, Justin plays similarly to he did on Sunday. How could you sell the decision to go to Russell Wilson to the team? I don't know how you do it. And I know that there's still chatter about it happening as early as it's not going to happen this week. Like I'll plant my flag on this. Justin Fields is going to start against Indianapolis. If it becomes a conversation Dallas week, I don't know how it does, but if we get to that point, I vehemently will disagree with that decision. Assuming that Justin doesn't like completely fall off a cliff in this game against Indianapolis, but like the arrow is pointing up right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. And to kind of relate it, if you're a Pittsburgh sports fan that follows the Penguins, to me, it would almost be like, and I know these are completely 2 different situations and also when they're being played, but like whenever the Penguins went from Matt Murray to Fleury in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals in 2016, like why even make that decision? Why do that when Murray had brought you to the Eastern Conference Finals and sure, they had lost a couple games, but the decision made no sense to me. I would feel the same way if they went to Russell Wilson in a couple weeks when he's healthy, if they continue to play like they have and they continue to win. It would make no sense to me, and I don't. That's why I would love to hear an argument for it, because could the offense be better? Sure, but you bring up the Panthers. You know what Justin Fields hasn't been? What Bryce Young was doing. You did not get that bad of level of production from your offense. So, sure, Russell Wilson could come in and be an Andy Dalton and outperform Justin Fields in a game, but I don't see a reasoning to even test those waters right now.
No, yeah, the reason I wasn't bringing up that scenario, and I'm not saying that you thought I was, but yeah, I don't believe that would happen. I wasn't bringing up the Carolina scenario for that reason. It was kind of actually the opposite. It's more about having, like I said, to sell a decision that a coach is making to a team. I don't know how you sell that decision right now. Again, things could change on Sunday depending on what happens. It could be a drastic downfall for Justin all of a sudden on Sunday, and that might change our opinions. But as we sit here right now, the arrow is pointing up. You know what he can bring. He brings a different element with his legs. Like we said, that option play from the 4-yard line, I believe Justin Fields gets his first rushing touchdown. Like, that's something that only he can do for this offense with the current group that you have in that room. So, yeah, I think the arrow is pointing up big time for Justin Fields. I'm rather excited for this to continue to happen. So I hope that it does. We want to get into some questions, but first, got to talk about Keats Barbershop. Smitty from Around the 412 here, and while I may not have much hair, the hair that I do have will not be cut by anybody besides Keat at Keats Barbershop. My friend Christian Circle, been with us since day one. Keats Barbershop, located 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Download the app The Cut, book an appointment with Christian today, or you can do walk-in with Tony or Ashley. But again, Keats Barbershop, 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Go check them out. Old school vibe in there. Absolutely love it. Cannot recommend them enough. Wouldn't go anywhere else. Maybe I'll see you there. Wouldn't have anyone else cut my hair, and I wouldn't have anyone else dye my hair besides Jenny Bryan. So shout out to her for making me a little bit blonde. All right, let's get into some questions here. Trent Ging, first one we want to get to. Where do we go for offensive line depth? Move Spencer Anderson to tackle if Jones or Moore get hurt? Yeah, so they brought in a tackle. Actually, I feel like we can kind of include Ross's question in here because he basically asked the same thing. And actually, the name that they brought in, Calvin Anderson, a tackle, was not the name that I was told to keep an eye on. Like, old friend of the Steelers, Chris Hubbard, currently on the 49ers practice squad, was thrown out to me, as well as Donovan Smith, who was spent time with the Buccaneers, a lot of years with the Buccaneers, and was with the Kansas City Chiefs more recently. I thought that would have made sense. Not saying he's a great player. There's obviously a reason he's a free agent, but more high profile depth for sure. Same thing with Hubbard. He's been around the block. Could definitely help on the right tackle side. Calvin Anderson's an interesting dude. He certainly had his fair share of health issues as well. He actually had malaria. Alan brought up to me. There was like this weird thing that happened with him. He also had some like heart issue that he got flagged for. So, I mean, he doesn't have a clean bill of health for sure either. Yeah, I mean, Spencer Anderson's a 5-spot guy. I think that he probably is somebody that they might turn to him at tackle before they would Calvin Anderson even. So, I don't even know that this guy's the third guy. Dylan Cook working his way back, but like, I don't know how quickly that's going to be. It's not, what did Alan just told me too. What is the, Liz Frank injury that he's dealing with? So that's not something that, he's going to be a 4-week thing. Like, I know he started on IR. People think that's like, typically that's a 4-week thing. Now, like, maybe you get him in the back half of the season. Dylan Cook back his depth. I do think it's Spencer Anderson, because I think Isaac Seumalo, he could be back as early as this game against Indy. If not, I for sure think the following week. And even then, like, you have Mason McCormick, who I thought looked pretty good, the 25 snaps that he played on Sunday, whether it was rotating with Spencer Anderson or as the extra offensive lineman. So I like the interior depth that they have, even sans, the Nate Herbig injury that knocked him out for the year. I think there's certainly some question about what they have at tackle now with Fatanu knocked out for the rest of the regular season. But yeah, my mind goes to Spencer Anderson immediately. And then if it didn't work out, maybe they take another shot at a tackle. I really don't think Calvin Anderson's here to be anything more than just a guy, just a body.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Spencer Anderson has the versatility to be able to do that. With Isaac Seumalo coming back from injury, maybe not this week, like you mentioned, but like could be against Dallas.
It'll be one of the next two.
Yeah, it'll be one of the next 2 weeks. I think it makes sense. Not that Spencer Anderson has done a bad job at the guard spot so far, but he's a depth piece. That's what you ideally want him for. And having Mason McCormick, like you mentioned, as the possible rotation guy at guard, but definitely the next man up at guard, you have Spencer Anderson to kind of fill in for that backup tackle spot. And ideally, you don't want him to have to play either left or right tackle. Stick him to one side, but like I think he has the versatility in a pinch if you need to. The Steelers can make decisions whether they want to slide Broderick over and put him at right tackle if Dan Moore Jr. goes down, or vice versa. I think that they've got some options there, and yeah, Dylan Cook when he comes back, you're going to have a full tackle room with Isaac Seumalo back. You have McCormick there, Spencer Anderson as another depth piece. Dylan Cook's there. There's your potential 4 tackle room. So I don't think that you have to necessarily go out and trade for somebody. I don't think that, because I know Ross had brought that up in his question. I don't think that the Steelers necessarily have to do that. I mean, if anything, at this point, I know this is diverging from the tackle talk. I'd still be interested in trading for a receiver than I would be an offensive tackle.
That's the next question.
At this point.
Yeah, I think that, like I mentioned with Hubbard or Donovan Smith, I think there's guys out there that they would get off the street or somebody else's practice squad before they make a trade for somebody, because I think they feel okay about their starters and Moore Jr. and Broderick. But I think that they probably could do better. So you're kind of just biding time until Dylan Cook comes back, which is another guy I think that they really like as a project as well. So good stuff there. Next question. You just mentioned receiver. Vane says, do you think the Steelers go after Davante Adams? That's now the popular name being thrown out there because it's about the team's success, right? We need, if you want this, if you're somebody that wants the Steelers to trade for a receiver, you're looking around the league and looking at these teams that are falling down in the standings. The Jacksonville Jaguars, I don't know if they have a receiver to trade. I don't know if they'd be interested in that, but they are 0-3, and same thing with the Bengals. I don't think that they're making a trade with the Steelers. So you start looking around the league, who's kind of fallen in the standings that could make sense. Are the Dolphins considering this a lost season? Is there somebody in that wide receiver room that could be of interest to the Steelers? One that's interesting to me is the Titans, who are also 0-3. That division stinks, by the way. But they're 0-3 right now. Like, could DeAndre Hopkins be somebody that the Steelers consider? I know we talked about Treylon Burks earlier, but DeAndre Hopkins is an older guy. Would they be looking to shed that salary, get him off the books, give him a chance to go to a competitive team? That's certainly one that I would look at. The Broncos, I think we're all waiting for them to fall off to start talking about Courtland Sutton again. Giants, Darius Slayton, obviously, if that were to come to fruition. Is there somebody on the Panthers? Obviously, not Deontay Johnson isn't going to happen coming back here, but Adam Thielen, who was just put on IR, when he comes back, could he maybe make some sense? I don't know. I think that we're just monitoring right now. Who's going to fall down in the standings before the trade deadline that might be looking to offload a receiver? Davante Adams is certainly a name to throw out there. He looks frustrated anytime that they're losing. He's getting up there in age. I think he knows he doesn't have a lot of years left playing at this level in the prime of his career, because he's still a really good player. So I get it. If that's something that they can make work, you're not going to have to sell me on it. Somebody threw out there, I think it was maybe FanDuel proposed the trade, a 2 and a 5 for Davante Adams. I would do that. Sign me up, but I just don't know that we're there yet. Raiders 1-2 on the season right now.
Is there anybody that's on the Patriots that you'd be interested in? I was looking at their roster.
Man. I mean, they have 2 rookies.
Like, would you be interested
2 rookies in
in
Jalen Polk?
Would you be interested at all in like KJ Osborne? I guess is the one guy that's not a rookie that maybe they'd be interested in trading. A guy that had some moderate success in Minnesota.
Yeah, the only reason I think he had success though was because you had the route technicians surrounding him. Like, that dude gets the least amount of separation in the league. I mean, I think that they could do worse. The Steelers currently are doing worse, but I don't know.
The bar is pretty low for what we're working with. So
I don't think he's necessarily. Yeah, I don't know that he's necessarily even a good player, but I would take Tyquan Thornton over him just for his ability to just run straight and take the top off while other guys run underneath. I mean, like
51st overall pick, Tyquan Thornton.
Yeah, that was awful. But pick aside, just because of the one element that he would bring to the team, I would probably take him out of that room, out of anybody that I would assume be available, because they're not trading their rookies. I don't think they're trading Pop Douglas, so that's kind of where I'm at.
49ers are 1-2. Maybe they'll trade Ayuk.
Juwan Jennings. Trade us Jennings instead.
What as a someone that follows fantasy, and we were very involved in the Ayuk trade rumors, I guess I should say, never actually happened. Yeah. Through 3 games, how disappointing has Ayuk been?
This is like what I fully expected. Like, people really discredit how important it is to be playing football. Like, the dude he wasn't doing anything. Like, he was running sprints. Like, I fully expected that he was not going to start out the season well. I couldn't imagine if we would have made that trade and he was having the numbers that he was having right now. Oh man, would it be ugly, the conversation in Pittsburgh right now? Now we can just kind of poke fun at it because.
What do you mean? If he had the numbers he was having right now, he'd be the number 2 receiver.
Oh, that's true. That's true. But like
if you're paying him $30 million, pretty low.
Yeah, if you're paying him $30 million a season, though, you're certainly expecting him to be producing more than he has. So, but either way, yeah, keep an eye on Devontae. I think Omar Khan is going to be interested in any wide receiver moves. Takes 2 to tango, obviously, and you need that team to fall out of the mix. So, Devontae Adams, certainly an interesting name to keep an eye on. Let's keep with the trade stuff, because John has a question here. Assuming that Fields stays as the starter, do you trade Russ if there's a team like the Dolphins who becomes desperate for a quarterback? This has been thrown out there, obviously, by a lot of people. There's 2 parts to this that make me really hesitant. The first part is, how many times have we seen teams, even specifically the Steelers, need multiple quarterbacks throughout the season? I think that right now, I'm not going to go all Bill Belichick and say the Steelers have the best quarterback situation in the NFL. But I think that it's certainly a nice luxury to have one of those 2 as a backup once Russ does get healthy.
I think you can say that. They have the best backup quarterback situation in the NFL.
Yeah.
Whether it's Fields or Russell Wilson, the floor is pretty high with either of those guys as a backup.
That's Alan and I said, what's funny is you could argue coming into the season, now these guys can prove to be a viable option, but coming into the season, you could have made the argument they have like one of the worst starting quarterback situations, but the best backup quarterback situation. Like, there's not much of a gap there. So that would make me hesitant to trade Russell Wilson. The other part specifically to the Dolphins is, does he put them in a playoff position on that roster? Because it's a numbers game. Like, the Steelers are competing to try to make the playoffs. Are you going to give Russell Wilson to a team and then have him make them a team that is once again competing for the playoffs against you? I don't know if the Steelers would have interest in doing that. Because right now, right, like, you're sitting there looking at the Dolphins with their quarterback situation thinking, oh, they're not a factor. If you give them a healthy Russell Wilson, does he do enough for that offense to make them a factor? And if so, why would you want to do that?
Yeah. I think that's a tough call, trading him to an AFC team. Like, you would have to definitely strategically do it. I'm looking at the NFC teams right now. There's not one that sticks out to me that really makes sense anymore. Like, the one that I guess could have was the Panthers. But at the same time, Andy Dalton just threw for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. So, like, why would they do that?
Yeah. No, they would need an injury to happen to a starting quarterback in the NFC.
Like, realistically, nobody in the NFC South, nobody in the NFC North, like, the worst team, the Bears, they're not going to be trading for Russell Wilson. Right. The NFC West, I mean, maybe if something happens with Stafford, the Rams could be a possibility. But even then, I don't know.
I think anybody could be. A lot of teams could be a possibility with an injury to their starting quarterback.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, in the NFC East, maybe the Giants because Danny Dimes is not a dime.
Yeah, but they have Drew Lock. Like, would they just say we're just going to get a look at Drew Lock? Or I don't know.
Think
like,
there's an easy trade partner with Russell Wilson. The easiest trade partners might be the AFC, but that creates it more complicated.
Not only does an injury need to happen in the NFC, it has to happen to a team that still feels like they can make the playoffs, even with that. Because a lot of teams would probably just be like, we're not going to give up an asset. Like, this sucks, but we just got to go through the season. We'll get a look at whoever our next quarterback is, and it is what it is. But if it's a team like, and I'm not wishing injury on anybody here, but if like Dak Prescott goes down, Cowboys still very much going to try to make the playoffs. They make a ton of sense. Allen threw one out that was hilarious. Allen threw one out that was hilarious. Jalen Hurts gets injured. Russell Wilson traded to Philadelphia to play in front of Kenny Pickett.
That would be too good. Especially because, like, in the first couple of weeks, you had a lot of Philly people, like, pining for Pickett to come in.
Mm-hmm.
Stupidly, but it's foolishly.
It's pretty insane.
I mean, like you never want anybody to get injured, but the Cowboys, imagine it happens something like this week, and they make that trade, and then 2 weeks from now, you have Justin Fields against Russell Wilson in prime time.
The other part of this, right, is Russell Wilson has a no trade clause. So, like, if he doesn't want to go, he doesn't have to. You would think that if Justin Fields is the starter, he probably would want to, but they can't make him. Like, they can't just trade him just to trade him. So Russell Wilson would ultimately have to agree to that as well. So there's so many elements here, but I just keep coming back to the fact that, especially as Steelers fans, we've seen how many quarterbacks have played recently for us. Some of it's been due to performance, sure, but a lot of injuries take place every year in the NFL. I think you got to be 2 or 3 deep at the position that you feel okay at least about. Nobody loves their second or third quarterback option, but I think you can like them. And right now, as a Steelers fan, you got to feel pretty good about the backup option for sure. And I think you can do a lot worse than Kyle Allen as the 3 even. So I kind of like the room that they've built. And unless it's absolutely necessary, I don't really have a desire to take from that group.
Yeah. And another side of that coin, like, if you do trade Russell Wilson, Kyle Allen becomes your second quarterback. You don't have another quarterback in the organization, even including the practice squad. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what they would do as far as they'd have to bring in somebody else as far as that goes too. Maybe not on the 53-man roster, but you'd at least have to bring in a practice squad quarterback.
Right. Yeah. And how much different does the offense operate with Kyle Allen too from what they're doing right now? Like, if he had to play, how different would things be? So I don't necessarily think this is a realistic scenario unless Russ pushes for it. Like, I don't think from the Steelers side, they're looking to move Russell Wilson, regardless of what happens with Justin Fields.
You would have to demand out after they name Justin Fields the starting quarterback.
Right. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Which, from what Tomlin says, it may never happen. We might be in week 15 wondering who's going to be the starting quarterback still.
Yeah, it's just going to be a game time decision every single week.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody gets the home games, somebody gets their away games.
And analytics might speak to that. We'd have to look into that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Hey, nothing else Steelers related, because I got to bring something up. Well, actually, first I'll mention this because we don't. If you guys watch this show but don't watch Steelers Saturday Sit Down, that is where all the previewing of the games take place. So we're not going to talk about this upcoming matchup against the Colts at all. That will take place on there. So be sure to catch that. Like, subscribe. You hit that notification bell. You'll know when we go live for that. Or you can just watch it back after. A ton of people watched the last episode back afterwards. So we appreciate that. Hope everybody that watched that subscribed. I know you guys are. Winked face. Be sure to do so. I'm wearing, if you guys are watching on YouTube right now, I'm wearing one of our Around the 412 hoodies right now from Everything Custom Designs, logo right above Tyler right now. But the reason I want to specifically tell you something about them right now, literally Haley messaged me shortly before we came on here to record this. I literally had just put out the Etsy link because someone was like, hey, who did these for you? They look awesome. Might want to get some work done or whatever. She messaged me and goes, yeah, my Etsy account got hacked for the second time. somebody actually attached like their bank information to it now. So they needed to like shut down the account. She's not going to use Etsy anymore. Somebody's working on setting up a new, like her own website for her, which is going to be awesome. Hopefully that happens in the very, very near future. So do not use Everything Customs Etsy link, although you won't be able to anyway. But just saying, if you notice it's no longer in the description of the show, that is why. Also, we're sorry, but for the time being, you're also not going to be able to order any of these hoodies. I literally just put them out there because I had just gotten mine, but unfortunately, they're going to be on back order for a couple weeks until Haley's able to get working on them. I'm also rocking one of the hats right now, but these are, you know, 1 by 1 handmade and very limited supply. So if you didn't get it on the orders, maybe I'll do a third order if there's enough people that want them. But sorry about it. You guys didn't show enough demand in the first two. So now there's like 30 people, I think, that got hats. So that's cool. So appreciate all the support there as well. Don't know how many people have the merch. I know a ton of people are still using the Game Changers codes for sure, because we see that every month. So we appreciate that. AT412 at checkout. You know what? I'll still play the Everything Custom Designs ad, but again, not going to be able to go through Etsy. You can hit her up on Facebook and like her page there and communicate with her in there. Stay in touch because that website will be launching in the near future. Just don't know exactly when. But anyways, need a custom t-shirt, hoodie, tumbler? Stop what you're doing. Don't go anywhere else. Check out the link in the description. Everything Custom Designs. Our friend Haley Wagner, small business. She can do all that for you. She even does around the 412 merch, t-shirts, hoodies, long sleeve tees, bunch of different stuff. I even got a tumbler from her as well. So go check out the link in the description. Goes directly to her Facebook page. All of her stuff can be found there. Again, Everything Custom Designs. Haley Wagner. She does great work. Can't recommend her enough. Go check it out. Yeah, now I'm definitely gonna have to make a new one of those ads at the very least. So, but anyway, shout out to Haley. Love it. These are very comfortable, by the way, and they're not like super heavy. So like today, I was like, I just have to wear it. Like I'm mad. I was at the Steelers game Sunday and I got sunburnt on September 22nd at a Steeler game. I got sunburnt. I just want to rock hoodies, man. Like it's about to be October and it's still pretty warm here, but like today it was like 68-ish. So I was like, yeah, I'm wearing the hoodie and shorts, but it's pretty lightweight. It's nice. So when you are able to get one, definitely recommend getting one. They're awesome. In the description, we got everything, obviously, gamechanger.la, picksix.la, save $10 using code AT412. Also, year 7, rocking around the 412. Really starting to ramp up this time of year. I mentioned that in a little video that I put out. We mentioned it last week on the pod. But this time of year, we really like to start getting rolling with this thing. Recently got in touch with Mary Kay over the East Rochester Salvation Army. That's the name of their director. Been in touch with her for the last couple of years. This is year 3 working with them. We're going to adopt as many kids as we can off their angel tree. You don't even know this yet. We're up to 12. We got 12 tags that are accounted for so far, which is awesome, especially for this time. Like this is super early to already have a dozen tags accounted for. So we're very excited about that. And that's not including the donations that we've gotten monetarily. Like that is 12 tags being taken by individuals. So we're super excited about that. And we have one family so far as well. So things are rolling. Get involved.
Awesome.
The link is in the description. Be sure to donate. Every single penny goes directly to the causes that we are talking about here, giving kids in the 724 and 412 areas the Christmas that they deserve. So we're very excited about that. Be sure to check it out. We're just going to keep this thing rolling. Tyler, anything else?
No. Go beat the Colts. I mean, they're not good. I know we're going to preview it, but
wait.
they're not good.
I was just saying, are you going to be on? Are you on sit down with me this week?
Oh, actually, probably not going to be. BYU kicks off at 11 a.m.
Okay,
Central.
if you're not going to be, then you got to give your prediction right now on the spot.
Okay. Steelers are going to win this game 26-13. Book it.
Okay. I like it. In a semi-bold to bold prediction.
I think that Justin Fields is going to have 2 passing touchdowns, which I know maybe not, like it doesn't seem bold, but until it happens, I feel like it's got to be bold.
Well, he's got 2 passing touchdowns through 3 games, so
yeah, 2 passing touchdowns, and I'll say something similar. Like Jonathan Taylor, gonna be kept in check, gonna be held under like 75 yards again, like I said last week with J.K. Dobbins.
Okay. All right, going back to the run stuffing. Well, I like it. All right, there's Tyler predictions. You will not get mine until Saturday on Steelers Saturday Sit Down. But that's all for us. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you are here on YouTube. Hit us in the comments with your thoughts, your predictions. Leave us a 5-star review. And subscribe if you're listening somewhere else. Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast from, you can find us there. Just search Around the 412 and then follow us on all social medias at Around the 412. For Tyler, for Smitty, this has been the Around the 412 Steelers Show. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.